All right. So adding and duplicating. Um, so there's a lot you can do with this sweet little image. First thing we do is copy. And I'm going to add a flower. So we want to add a flower. And this is where the clone stamp comes in really well too. Better than the blemishes. With the blemishes we saw work better with the spot healing brush tool. But the clone stamp is going to work really well with this. And you can also do a couple different things the way to do it. But we're going to put another flower here. So basically you're going to have your second layer. I'm going to actually do a third layer as well. Turn off that second one. The more layers, the better, in my opinion. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. We can do the selection tool, which is a great way to try and get this. We can literally move it. You want it to look a little bit different. And you might want to even flip it horizontally. Yeah. But you see, it doesn't look, it looks okay. It doesn't look bad. But the lines don't look good on the edge. It's not realistic. It's not how it would be if it was really sitting there. So in this case, if you do decide to do it that way, you can, do you remember our blur tool? This tool is such a good tool. You can blur your edges to make it look like it blends a little bit better. It's a little bit more realistic because you see the edges of this, they're blurred. So when you're working on something, you wanted to make it look as realistic as possible. Now, likelihood this wouldn't be in front of this leaf here. So you want to take that. I gotta turn on the fan for computer. Um, and you want to delete it. Now it doesn't have a stem, of course. So you can clone stamp that stem. You go back to this layer, take your clone tool. You want to make it a little bit smaller. I'm using the brackets beside the P on your keyboard. If you use the one on the left, that makes any of your eraser, clone stamp tool, anything, any of selection, it makes it smaller. If you use it on the right, it makes it bigger. That's a faster way than going here and then moving this up and down. So beside the P, there's brackets. That's what I like to use. Because right when I'm in it, so anyway, let me clone stamp this. And I like to do it on a completely different layer, and I'll show you why. So when I clone stamp this, okay, it's not even facing the right direction, right? Well, what you can do, first of all, I can make it bigger. I can turn it and everything I want if it's on its own layer. I think you guys are getting the whole layer thing, I'm sure. All right. So let's do this. I'm still on its own layer. Squish it. So that's one way to do it. And it looks like the little baby is holding 3 flowers. Very simple. Now, if you really wanted to, if you think about it, if we add a flower here in real life, it would throw shadow on her, right? It wouldn't just, it would throw some level of shadow on her. So we can add another layer or keep this layer here. We can actually work on this layer because we have 3 layers. And we can take our burn tool, dodge and burn, and let's see where our flower is. Okay, we'll just like darken it just a little bit here under where the flower would be. Oops, you want to make sure you're on the, just a little bit. So you guys get the idea. But anyway, you can really make, oopsie. You can really make a difference. And what it was and what it can be. Very simple, right? Yeah. All right, so now we're doing like a little quiz. So how do I change the colors of the roses?
Okay, so you have to select them, which you can use. Well, yeah, you would go to the, oh, interesting, because you created that one. You just have to make sure that you select all the layers that the original ones are and the one you made, right?
Right, right, exactly. So
Or
they're in a
I guess I
group.
don't really know how that would be.
Well, that's
They're
a
all in the
great,
same group?
yeah, they're all in the same group. You got it.
Okay. So then
And
you would select the group?
yeah,
first?
well, you would have to, that's a great point. You actually have to select them on each layer, right? Because
Oh, okay.
you know what? For this one, let's go ahead and merge the layers because say, for example, we know we're not going to change this, okay? And we're ready to move on to the next thing. Now, only use this if you are for sure you're not going to change it, but we're for sure, okay? So now this is all on one layer. Now, what do we do now that it's all on one layer? Now you could do them separately, but which tool do we use?
Lasso, or no, sorry, quick select.
Yeah.
I guess it could be or lasso.
Yep.
Kind of depends.
Yeah. There's multiple ways to do a lot of things in Photoshop. Okay, so I'll just select them all. Now I don't want this in between. So what do I do if I don't want something? Do you know, Baldina?
I think you go and delete it. You go press the that was last time you delete from the river.
Right, exactly.
I remember that. That's the only thing up there.
Yep.
You go and press the next one. Yes, that
Yep.
one. And then press and do the minus and delete the leaves. I think you're the one that leaves just the flower, something
That's
like
it.
that. Yeah.
You got it, girls. Yep. So we'll just delete this. Okay. So now that's a good selection, but how do I get a cleaner selection? It's one of these on my menu bar.
Think select.
Yep.
Was it in select?
No.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Select and mask. Now I'm going to show you the other way select and mask works. I am not a fan of this way. I really don't understand it, to be honest. It's a new way, but I like, see how it doesn't show me what I'm really looking at? That's why I always do if you guys want to research that, go for it. But I always do select, I do shift when I hold down select and mask, and it brings this one up. And this one I think is a little bit better because it shows me what I'm looking at, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm able to trace around my object and get a really good.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was cool.
Yeah.
I have a question. Why is it showing like more color, and then when you let go, it like goes away? Is it because it's
that's-
smart and it knows what you're trying to outline?
Yeah, that's a
Or
great question. Yeah, it's showing you where your little mouse is going. So right now I'm holding down my mouse and it's just showing me the edge. And that way it shows me if there's more of the flower. Like it just gives me like a little bit of a preview. It's like, okay, there's green there. And it's just me as I'm holding it down, I'm really trying to stay close to my edges. So it sort of like pulls out and shows you a little bit more while you're trying to trace, if that makes sense. So here, like my red flower could go far out to here, but when I click on it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's not red flower. Okay, that's not red flower. So I'm like just staying as close as I can, but it's just giving you a little bit more of what's around it so you'll know what to copy.
Okay. Okay, so you're just clicking right now as you
Yes.
go around? Like holding it down?
Yep, I'm clicking and holding my mouse and just tracing it nice and slow. Like that. Nice and slowly around it. And you see how it's picking up a few extra things like I don't want. Sometimes that doesn't matter because when you edit, like if it's a slight color change on something like her little dress or the stem, it's not going to make that big of a difference because it's going to be so slight. But if you want, you can always contrast a little bit more. You see how it's taken off of some of that outside. You can smooth a little bit more. You can feather your edges, which is a good suggestion. You don't want to smooth. When it starts getting distorted, you're done too much. You know what I mean? You don't want to do, see how if I feather so much, it distorts it? We don't want that because we want it to look natural. But I'm going to take away some contrast there. So that's a pretty good selection. All right, so I say, okay, now what's the next step?
You can change, I think it's so many ways to change color. One of them, you can go directly over there to the color section, the little square, or you can do on the other side to the right. You do both. You show both, I think so. But yeah, when is the color template in the right, you're right. Yes, you can change it for that way. But after that, I don't remember much.
Okay.
I don't remember.
That's pretty good. This actually won't change the color on the.
Oh, it won't. Okay, the flower.
This changes the color, yes. Right now the flowers are selected, but I don't want to change these direct flowers just in case I'm like, oh, I hate what I did. I have to make a copy always.
A copy. Oh yeah, you say that too. Yeah, just to make sure.
It just helps. Now you can always do Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. You can do that, but a copy always helps because you won't be messing with your actual thing. So I'll do Control C and V. That's my first thing. And that way I'm not working on the layer. So then you're right. You got it right, Balbina. You go select, image adjustments, hue and saturation. Now there's a lot of things, you guys. There's brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure. Go and play with these things. And Albina, I'll give you my login. Now only 2 people can be logged in at once. But if we communicate in the chat, then you'll know when somebody's in there or when there's somebody's not. But you can go in and play around.
Oh, just to go practice. Okay.
Yes,
thank
I'll
you.
give you I'll give you my login for my Adobe. You'll have access to all the programs. But just communicate on chat when you're in there because only 2 people can be on at once.
And right now we are the only one taking the training.
Right.
Just okay, just 2. Okay. Oh, I thought it was everybody.
I know.
Just 2. Okay.
So you can go to and we can look at some of these things too. I'm going to show you some more things, just quickly run through some things. But hue and saturation, I think we pretty much have gotten this down where, like, say we want to change this color, we can change them yellow, but that doesn't look so realistic. But pink roses look sort of pretty. We can make them darker or we can make them lighter. But when you start doing too many things, it starts to look not realistic.
Yeah, like
You
fake.
know?
Yeah.
So let's make them pink like that. But also let's change the opacity a little bit so it doesn't look too stark. And then boom, you change the flowers. And let's try a different way. Let's see what we do if we play with levels. So the levels do different things like that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cancel this. So you guys got how to change the flowers, right? You did a great job, and how to add a flower. And that looks pretty realistic, you know, based on
Yes, that.
what we had. You know, it doesn't look that bad. If you showed that picture, you won't be like, oh, that's so fake. So